So, a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of the series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week, based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, the NBA's Summer League has continued on, showcasing all of the hungry young players trying to prove themselves, and we also saw a pretty big name on the move, so we definitely have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now. So if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Mason, and he says that Russell Westbrook will make very minimal impact on the Denver Nuggets next season, and by the playoffs, he's going to be hard to even play on the court at all. So in case you haven't heard and can probably guess by the nature of this take, Russell Westbrook is no longer a member of the Los Angeles Clippers. First, he got traded to the Utah Jazz, where he was immediately bought out of his contract, and is now signing with the Denver Nuggets to serve as one of their most prominent bench players. The thing about the Nuggets in their current situation, though, is that that's not necessarily saying all that much to be one of their prominent bench players. After the Nuggets won the title 2 seasons ago, they have seemingly gotten way too complacent ever since that, because last offseason they lost key bench contributor Bruce Brown to free agency and barely did anything to replace him, which clearly caught up to them this past year, and this season they lost starting shooting guard Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to free agency now, and until this point hadn't really done anything to replace him either. Russell Westbrook is the first notable addition that the Nuggets have made this offseason, and as the original take states, it's becoming debatable whether or not he can even be considered a notable addition at this point in his career, so let's dive into that. There's no doubt that Russell Westbrook's impact and production are dwindling as he continues to age, coming off of a season where he scored the fewest points per game and dished out the fewest assists per game of his career. He's also not a reliable three-point shooter still at this point in his career, so expecting him to replace Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's 40% shooting from three isn't realistic either, but where I do genuinely believe that Westbrook will help out big time is simply holding things together with the bench unit when Nikola Jokic is out of the game going to the bench. Over the last few seasons, the Nuggets have statistically fallen off of a cliff whenever Jokic has subbed out of games, because so much of the offense runs through him and his playmaking talent cannot be replicated by anyone else on their roster, at least until now. Russ has plenty of faults for sure, but he's still someone with terrific passing talent and instincts, and his ability to set up those around him will be vital in the non-Jokic minutes to keep the offense running. I don't think he changes that much about their ability to contend for a title, but those expecting the Nuggets to fall off a cliff are also probably overreacting, and even though they do still need better depth in other areas, I don't think the Westbrook addition is a bad thing necessarily at all. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Fresh, and they say that as things currently stand, neither the Lakers or the Clippers are good enough to make the playoffs this year in the Western Conference. Both LA teams have been firmly in the mix in the Western Conference over the last 5 years or so, but neither have necessarily had the greatest summer, and after disappointing shortcomings last year, it does feel like there is a shift coming that could be to the tune of the original take here, so let's take a look. The Lakers came into the summer having already been in a tough spot, having just finished as a play-in team for a second consecutive year, only this time being eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. They successfully re-signed LeBron James, but after that, they've essentially sat back and done nothing, which is a game plan that really struggles to inspire confidence for a play-in squad. The only newcomers that they have are their draft picks, and while I personally am very high on rookie Dalton Connect, it's It's unrealistic to think he can be a piece that takes them to the next level, so with all of the movement around them in the Western Conference and teams getting aggressive to improve, I can't think of any real reason why they would improve out of the play-in range of the standings unless LeBron James channels his prime self from 10 years ago. As for the Clippers, they were admittedly a much better squad last season than the Lakers when at full strength, but being at full strength is something that has been a rare occurrence for them, especially for team cornerstone Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George also left the team in free agency this summer to make matters worse. They did bring James Harden back on a team-friendly contract extension though, and unlike the Lakers, they have actually been pretty active this offseason, so even though they may not be as good next season as they were this past season, I do still see them as a playoff contender, barring any serious health concerns for Kawhi and James Harden, which I do realize could be a big if. The Clippers signed Derrick Jones Jr., coming off of an outstanding season in Dallas, oftentimes defending the opposing team's best player and improving as a shooter. They also brought back Nicholas Batum for some much-needed front-court depth as a defender and three-point shooter as well, and they also signed Kevin Porter Jr. on a minimum contract for a second chance, and strictly as a basketball signing, Porter was averaging 19 points per game before his off-the-court issues halted his career in Houston, so while there can be a whole separate debate about that, as a basketball player, he could definitely help plug some of the scoring and playmaking holes left behind by Paul George, even though he's obviously not a one-to-one replacement by any means. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from you, and he says that this draft class is substantially better than advertised, and that there are actually plenty of future stars in this group. The NBA Summer League is always a fun time for basketball fans because it gives us the first look at the next batch of NBA talent playing games in their new team's threads. It's also a time where all of the fringe players trying to make a name for themselves show up to try to work their way into the NBA and make their dreams come true, so it's a super competitive atmosphere every night. While Summer League can give you a general idea of what guys do well and where they struggle, ultimately, the truth of the matter is that you have to take everything you see in this league with a grain of salt, because throughout history, Summer League production has meant very little in the long run. That goes both ways too, because guys who have struggled in Summer League have ended up being all-time great players, and dominant Summer League players have also flamed out countless times. With that being said, I've said on quite a few occasions in the past that I did believe in this draft class being overall better than what people were giving it credit for. And if it takes some breakout performers in the Summer League to change the overall tone in that direction, then I am on board. Reed Sheppard, Modest Bazelis, Stephon Castle, and Dalton Knecht are four players in particular that are really tearing it up in the Summer League right now, giving the Rockets, Bulls, Spurs, and Lakers fans a lot to be excited about, and even Kel'el Ware has looked great for the Miami Heat. On the opposite end, though, number 1 pick Zachary Risache has been easing into the action, and number 2 pick Alex Sarr has been struggling immensely to even make a single shot, but that's exactly what I'm talking about from before. You can't overreact too much one way or the other, so while Sarr's struggles are concerning, and someone like Reed Sheppard's dominance has definitely been incredible, it's still way too early to declare either of them busts or future stars. I believed this class was deep from the jump. The star caliber talent was just unclear at the time, but either way, I do overall agree with the original take for this one. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.